Picture a typical family living room. The kids play fetch with the dog in the yard for hours. The husband provides all the meals. He fills the bowl every single morning without fail. And yet, when a thunderstorm rolls in, or when the dog is startled, or when it simply wants to rest for the evening, it doesn't go to the kids. It doesn't go to the husband who feeds it. It bypasses them completely. It finds the wife, curls up exclusively on her feet, and refuses to move. Why? Why does a dog living in a multi-human household unevenly distribute its attachment? Why do they choose one distinct, undeniable favorite? Most people assume it's simple. They project human social constructs onto the animal, or they rely on outdated behavioral theories. You've probably heard the classic assumptions. The dog thinks that person is the alpha, or dogs just love whoever feeds them, or perhaps the dog is protecting the weakest person in the house. But modern behavioral neuroscience tells a completely different story. As evolutionary biologists and neuroscientists map the canine brain, we now know this favoritism is never random. It is a highly calculated biological response, and you have no idea what is actually happening inside your dog's head. Let's shatter the myths immediately. Myth number 1, the alpha theory. People assume the dog favors the pack leader. This dominance hierarchy model is universally debunked. It was based on flawed observations of unrelated captive wolves in the 1940s. Dogs do not view your family as a linear ladder to be conquered. They do not pick a favorite because they respect someone's authority. Instead, they operate on what human developmental psychologists call the secure base effect. The attachment is based on biological security, not subjugation. Your dog favors the human who serves as a consistent, predictable buffer against environmental stress. The person who doesn't react erratically. The person whose physical presence mathematically lowers the dog's internal stress markers. Myth number 2, resource dependency. Whoever feeds them owns them. Wrong again. Food absolutely drives initial classical conditioning in puppies, but canine neurobiology has evolved past mere survival. They evolved to value social interaction equally to, and often more than, strictly caloric resources. The person who feeds the dog is just recognized as a dispenser, but the person who provides high-quality, predictable social engagement, that person becomes the literal attachment figure. We have the brain scans to prove this, which we will examine in a moment. But first, myth number 3, protection. If a dog constantly shadows a quieter, perhaps more anxious or sedentary family member, owners instantly assume the dog is protecting the weakest link in the pack. This is romanticized fiction. In reality, the dog is engaging in autonomic temperament matching. Dogs are highly sensitive to erratic kinetic energy, flailing children, loud, boisterous adults, heavy footsteps. Dogs actively attach to the person whose baseline autonomic nervous system arousal most closely matches their own. Why? Because that person provides a higher degree of environmental predictability. It isn't protection, it is physiological harmony. So, how deep does this preference go? It goes down to the exact molecular level. A groundbreaking 2015 study published in the journal Science by researchers at Azabu University proved this. They analyzed the urine of dogs and their primary owners before and after interacting. When a dog engaged in mutual gazing with their preferred profound neuroendocrine loop triggered, dogs experienced a 130% increase in urinary oxytocin. The human they gazed at, they experienced a massive 300% increase. But here is the critical, mind-blowing distinction. This chemical explosion did not occur with strangers. It did not occur with non-preferred household members. The oxytocin gaze positive loop only fired for their specific chosen person. This proves that canine favoritism isn't just an attitude. It is literally chemically addictive for both the dog and the human. The dog's brain is heavily medicating itself, but only in the presence of one specific family member. Let's look closely at the brain structure itself. In 2015, researchers at Emory University's Center for Neuropolicy placed awake dogs inside an fMRI scanner. They exposed these dogs to 5 distinct scents: themselves, a familiar dog, a strange human, and their preferred familiar human. The results were staggering. The canine caudate nucleus, the brain's reward processing center, exhibited maximum neural activation only in response to the scent of their favorite person. This activation for their favorite human was significantly higher than the activation for familiar dogs. The dog's brain structurally prioritizes you over its own species. But what about the food myth? Emory University researchers ran another awake fMRI study in 2016. They scanned dogs while offering either a piece of a hot dog or verbal praise from their favorite person. The data completely destroyed the resource dependency myth. 13 out of 15 dogs tested showed equal or significantly greater activation in the ventral caudate for their favorite person's praise compared to the actual food reward. The social bond massively outweighs the caloric reward at a neurobiological level. You are literally better than food. This unique bond creates what Utrecht University researchers confirmed as the secure base. In a canine adaptation of Ainsworth's strange situation test, dogs were placed in a novel room with toys. When their preferred owner was present, the dogs played actively. They explored. But the exact moment their favorite person left the room, play duration dropped to near 0, even if a friendly stranger stayed behind and tried to engage them. The dog uses their favorite human as a distinct cognitive anchor to safely process the entire world. A 2017 study from the University of Vienna analyzed salivary cortisol and heart rate variability in dog owner dyads. They found a literal physiological contagion. Dogs pair deeply with individuals whose autonomic rhythms are predictable to the dog. If you are anxious, your dog's cortisol spikes to match yours. You form a synchronized physiological unit. Your dog isn't just choosing you. Your dog is literally syncing their heartbeat and stress hormones to your exact frequency. Why is an entirely different species hardwired to do this? The answer lies in ancient genetics and the evolutionary advantage of cross-species bonding. Unlike wolves, who mature to form independent same-species family units, domestic dogs possess a genetic mutation. In 2017, Princeton University researchers identified structural variants on canine chromosome 6, specifically transposon insertions in the GTF2I and GTF2IRD1 genes. In humans, mutations in this exact genetic region cause Williams-Buren syndrome. This is a condition characterized by indiscriminate hypersocial behavior. Your dog's DNA forces them to love. But early domestic dogs still had to survive. They couldn't just love indiscriminately. They had to read human microexpressions and avoid dangerous humans. So this genetic hypersociability was forcefully funneled toward one specific target. They funneled it toward the human who exhibited the safest, most predictable behavioral patterns. This intense, singular attachment dates back to the late Pleistocene epoch, and we have the archaeological proof. In Germany, archaeologists excavated the Bonn Oberkassel dog, a puppy buried alongside humans over 14,000 years ago. Dental and skeletal analysis revealed something incredible. The puppy survived multiple severe bouts of canine distemper virus. This is a highly lethal disease. Survival over weeks is biologically impossible without intensive, individualized human nursing, cleaning vomit, providing water, sustaining warmth. Someone spent weeks saving that specific puppy. This is the earliest empirical evidence of reciprocal emotional attachment overriding mere utilitarian use. And it isn't an isolated incident. Look at the Ain Malaha burial site in Israel. In a 12,000-year-old grave, an elderly woman was found buried in a fetal position. Her left hand was deliberately resting on the thorax of a young puppy. The intense, individual human-dog bond you see in your living room today, it isn't a modern luxury. It has been culturally, evolutionarily, and genetically selected for over 12 millennia. It is ancient hardware. Which brings us to a massive clinical warning. Because this one-person attachment is deeply encoded in your dog's neurochemistry and genetics, a sudden shift is a severe clinical red flag. If your dog suddenly stops greeting their favorite person, if they isolate away from them, if they suddenly shift their attachment to a quieter household member overnight, it is rarely just a mood. It is almost always medical. You must pay attention to this pivot. Hidden pain is the most common culprit. Say the dog's favorite person is the loud, boisterous teenager, or the heavy-footed husband. Suddenly the dog avoids them, choosing to hide under the desk of the quiet, sedentary wife. Suspect osteoarthritis. Dogs experiencing joint or spinal pain become hyper-aware of their physical vulnerability. The AHA pain management guidelines note that profound social withdrawal is a primary diagnostic indicator of chronic pain. They will abruptly abandon their neurochemical favorite person if that person's kinetic energy poses a risk of accidental bumps or requires highly energetic greetings. Then there is canine cognitive dysfunction, dog dementia. If your dog stops displaying preferential attachment altogether, if they fail to distinguish their favorite person from strangers, if they seem disoriented during greetings, this points directly to CCD. A University of Sydney study found 14.2% of dogs over 8 suffer from this. CCD causes brain atrophy in the frontal lobes. It depletes dopamine. The chemical oxytocin loops literally degrade. The dog physiologically forgets who their favorite person is. Altered interaction is the primary symptom. Conversely, sensory decline causes the exact opposite reaction. Progressive retinal atrophy, or age-related hearing loss, triggers hyper-attachment. Suddenly, your dog's environmental predictability matrix collapses. They turn from a healthy favorite person preference into severe, panic-driven Velcro behavior. They begin to use their preferred human as a literal guide dog. They rely completely on your physical proximity for spatial and autonomic regulation. It isn't cuteness. It is a desperate coping mechanism for failing senses. A dog's favorite person is not chosen by chance. It is not chosen by who fills the food bowl. It is a brilliant evolutionary calculation. The dog chemically, neurologically, and genetically aligns itself with the human who provides the optimal matrix of predictability, physiological safety, and autonomic harmony. You are not just their owner. You are their secure base. You are their chemical addiction. Look at the dog in your house right now. Who is their favorite person? Let me know in the comments below, and tell me if their temperament matches yours perfectly. The answer might surprise you. If you found this evolutionary deep dive valuable, subscribe, because in our next video, we are analyzing why dogs aggressively guard specific objects, and the neurological science behind resource guarding. It is even stranger than you'd expect.